This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Okay, Ken, to get us started, can you explain memes to me as if I was a Victorian child?
I'll try. A meme is a picture. Does this Victorian child know what a picture is?
I think so.
Okay.
A drawing, maybe?
Okay. Yeah. It's a picture with moving animation, where people have put words over it to make a joke of something that's culturally or socially relevant.
That bad. And where are they?
Memes show up on devices like pads, paper that you can see, that are moving. Yeah, it's hard to explain a computer to
The internet too.
yeah.
Yeah, I know it's hard. I tried. I played this with my friend the other day, and I was like, I don't know, like the Victorian, because it's like I kept thinking it's a child, and they're also from the Victorian era, so it's like extreme oversimplification.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, that's been great, guys. Welcome to Fully Managed. This is where we discuss marketing and business tips, and we assist you guys in your business journeys. Y'all know me. I'm your host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's partnership coordinator. And today we have a great guest. We have Kenn Kelly from Never Settle. Hi, Kenn. How are you?
And great.
You guys already got to know him a little bit as he explained memes to us as Victorian children. But Kenn, to get us started and get the ball rolling, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about Never Settled, what inspired you to establish it, just the whole shebang, whatever we need to know about you.
Yeah, it's great. So what inspired it was a little bit about me as first generation student to go to college, and I ended up getting a great opportunity to go into management consulting, and then I ended up going to Silicon Valley and starting a company there and raising money on Sand Hill Road and doing that whole system. And both of those were incredible experiences. But after many years of 100-hour plus weeks and a culture driven by purely performance, I felt like something was missing. And so later on in my career, I ended up starting Never Settle in 2012. And it was really based on this premise of like not settling to do the right thing in business versus just going after the bottom line. So how do we prioritize our people? How do we prioritize ethics and moral values so that we're a profitable and for-profit company, but that's not the ultimate driving force behind us. So we're more like a B Corp where we funnel everything through our core values and our mission, and then from there we make decisions, and we're pursuing a profit. And so it was this idea of never settling, and through that we built a creative tech and marketing agency where we help businesses grow through branding, design, marketing, web development, e-commerce, things like that.
So I think your agency was really cool because it was kind of very targeted and very specific to your mission. I think a lot of marketing agencies that I've seen usually kind of have a lot of generic things. And I liked that when I was doing some research, but I did have a question. Like you spoke about, one of the core values is kind of this idea of never settling, right? And I mean, that's the name of the company. It's like, but I'm curious, this kind of philosophy of continuous growth and excellence, does it ever, did you ever hit any roadblocks with it? Or is there a time where you had to tell a business that you're working with, or even just as a business that you're working with yourself, maybe in settling in this specific thing might be the best choice for this business? Or are you able to like always have that as a core value if every single moment?
I've been challenged by this by family, friends, clients in a lot of ways of them playing the devil's advocate and saying like, hey, here's benefits in settling, right?
Yeah.
So as an example, someone's like, hey, you can't always stir up the pot, like things need to settle. And so philosophically, I agree. Metaphorically, I think when we pursue our values as a company and what it looks like to never settle, um, never settle doesn't mean constantly changing or shaking things up or whatever, but it's a hunger and a passion and a pursuit to constantly be um, trying to get better. And so I don't think that choosing the right solution for the right budget and right timeline is settling in any regards. Like that's wisdom, and I would say like not settling, like choosing to do the right thing. Um, so in any project, like I would argue almost any project, it could always be better with more time and more money. But part of the constraints of an agency is how do you maximize that? How do you bring the most value within whatever the constraints are? So, um, and I think for sure, there's times that we've settled at things, and I think there's times our team will look back and say we regret that. Like we wish we would have pushed harder. We wouldn't take an easy path or cut the corner.
I think that's a great answer. I mean, I think like maybe when we think of the concept of kind of being ambitious and not settling, we tend to think of like more money, more things, more and I think your concept of it's not necessarily these big gestures as much as it's just making the right choices and never kind of sitting idle is a great sort of philosophy to have.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's one of the greatest times I've seen this show up is I told my sister maybe 15, one of my sisters 15 years ago, she was dating a guy and she was like, well, there's, all these things. And I was like, you deserve so much better. Like don't settle for mediocrity when you can do greatness. Right.
Yeah.
Means making hard decisions, doing the hard thing, waking up early, doing your habits, all those things.
Yeah. It totally makes sense. I mean, I think the relationship analogy is really great because I think that in relationships, a lot of times we tend to settle because we don't know if we're going to find someone better.
Mhm.
Um, right. And I think it's a mentality that like I had to, this is probably not business related, but I do think that it is something that kind of really plays out in how you live your life. Because I also had an experience like that. Where I remember I was dating the same thing. Like I was dating this guy. He was not the best for me. He was hardly a very good partner, but I think I was just kind of like, oh, I have to stay in this relationship. And I think it was the same thing of having to come to terms with the idea that, you know, I like you can find you deserve so much better than that. And being alone is so much better than that. And kind of like settling for someone just for the sake of it I think in every aspect of your life, not just romantic, is kind of like a disservice to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, I also wanted to ask you, because like we're speaking all these moral things. You guys advocate a lot for human trafficking. Well, not towards like, so you want to end human trafficking. What made you so passionate about this specific cause? And to want to like integrate your business so much into it.
Being exposed to it, um, maybe 19 years ago, I had someone come to my local church, kind of present like this is happening around the world. It's happening in your city in Denver. Me completely rejecting that. Like, how could it be this global epidemic? How could it be in my city? And wanting to vet it out. People say lots of things, so I went and did my own research, and it was like a one way door walking into. And I found out immediately this is very real. It's very much in my city. It's very big, and there was no shutting it off for me personally. Once being exposed to that, it was like seeing something so corrupt and evil. The idea of like trying to ignore it or not do something would have been devastating, like to my soul and my like being as a man. And so um, I just started asking questions, started getting involved with different nonprofits, and just finding out how can I help. And I would say that's still a big part of my journey is just learning. It's such a big problem that um, my goal is to be a student and to continue to learn and to find out like what does it look like to partner with others, partner with other organizations, empower people to make a difference in this. And so as an agency, we put our people's time and we put our finances behind organizations that are making a real difference. And we do that through supporting them with all of our normal services, design, marketing, technology. We build things for them. And it's been extremely meaningful to me and something I think that I'll look back and never regret any investment that we made into that. I think that'd be a good way of a litmus test for never settling. If you look back on a previous decision and you regret it, you probably settled somewhere. You probably made the wrong decision. And that's one of the things that I have zero regrets on is all the things we've got to do, had the opportunity to do in trafficking over the last 14 years. So.
That's amazing. I think like actually human trafficking, what's scary about it is that people don't even know that they're being trafficked. I've kind of like, when I've learned about it, I've noticed that the problem with it is that a lot of people don't even understand what it is, or how they're being trafficked, because they're getting lied to and they don't even know that that's what they're getting into until they're so deep in that they can't get out. Um,
Yeah, in some stories for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. The best definition I ever heard, or like to understand kind of the roots of it, comes from one of our partners in Empathize. They talk about forced coercion. And that's typically the entry point into something where someone is coercing you into something through force and manipulation. And then that goes down this deep rabbit hole, right? So at first it's very simple, very minor, but it goes deeper and deeper.
Yeah, no, I think it's great that companies always have things that they're advocating for, charity and things like that. Because I think as a company grows, a lot of times the values that you had when you started it or the idealism that I think a lot of people start their businesses with kind of gets lost when you just want to grow your business, you want to make more money, you want to hire more employees, you want to scale. And I think it's really easy for companies to get lost in that. And I think one of the ways that I've noticed that a great way to kind of recenter yourself and bring back that human side is always to do things like this because it helps you kind of connect with people outside of just trying to make money, if that makes sense. It's obviously growing a company, I think is great and you should prioritize that. But I also think that it's a great way to sort of keep a business kind of also human.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would argue, even from a capitalistic standpoint, that if you put your people and the right things first, like you will be more profitable, you will be your competitors. If you don't burn through your people, if you treat them with honor, if you pursue them and you see the humanity in them and you're making your people thrive, it will absolutely come back to a more positive client experience, company experience, and you will in the long term beat your competitors.
Yeah, and for sure. I think like I think it's hard to even notice when you're kind of getting too caught up in a certain thing when you're growing a business. A lot of our listeners kind of struggle with kind of being able to wear many hats and keeping all of those things in check. And then they feel like, like I think I've spoken to a lot of business owners who say like, like you feel like you're growing your HR department and you're doing so well with that. But then you realize that you're slacking in the marketing part. And then it's like, how do I do this? And then it's like, or like you're growing your business, but then you realize that you are kind of not paying attention to how your employees feel. And it's like a sort of push and pull to try to figure out how to keep everything in check and balance and how to keep that human side of it and keeping everything sort of in a nice and balanced way. And I think I happen to think that like stuff like this always is great because it does help you kind of recenter. And kind of look at the big picture.
Yeah. Yeah. The small business owner's dilemma is almost never ending, and getting really wise about what you're saying no to so you can make a full yes to the things that are most important is definitely key.
Yeah. I also wanted to, because like, with small business owners, I know that in Never Settle, you guys have worked with small businesses. You do work with smaller businesses, but you also work with larger businesses and you worked with like people from Fortune 500 and like Silicon Valley and like like bigger players like this. How do you find the difference between two different types of company, like groups of people, I guess, like how they're positioned in a market? I'm assuming that the work that you do with them is very different and how you approach it, obviously budget wise and just marketing and just reach wise. And I'm curious about how that has sort of affected your business and how you sort of handle all these type of clients.
Yeah, we approach them the same. I would say the work is very similar. Just the difference between a small business client and an enterprise client is the size of the work. So um, we may do an ad campaign for a small business and they may spend $1,000 a month, right? If we do it for enterprise campaign, maybe they're spending $200,000 a month. Same work, same quality of deliverables. Less time and research goes into one. There's less testing because there's less volume, right? With the other one, and there's more volume on the other side. So I would say the work is very similar. And one of the things that we found is government or government funded agencies at the enterprise level tend to have a lot of bureaucracy, which makes it really difficult. They have, big budgets, but there's, months
Yeah.
of time by to make a decision, and you got to get 20 people to sign off on it. Whereas, or any organization that's structured that way, and it could be small or big. And I think that's my point is we also work with big enterprise organizations, but they have one leader for the project and we can move really quick. And that makes the project like really good. And they actually get the most value out of their time because we're not spending 20x the amount of time in meetings and feedback and going in circles. And so their budgets are going way further. They're getting more deliverables. So I think the clients that operate efficiently, whether it's large or small, get the most value out of us. And I think that's one of the things that we try to educate them on is like, here's the best way to get the highest ROI of your time. And so I don't know if that answers the question, but I would say the work that we do is very similar. It's just the size and magnitude of it is probably the biggest differentiator.
Do you ever find that you work with companies that are kind of very stuck in their ways? I actually worked in a company before I was a Penji that was the CEO was kind of an older man. And he had grown his company pretty well. So they were doing really well. They were kind of, I noticed that the marketing team was kind of struggling with sort of making the marketing a little bit more modern. I saw that they were kind of, I was doing marketing, but I was very like, new in my career. So I'm kind of learning and kind of just seeing it around. But I noticed that they were trying to like push for socials, for TikTok and social media and stuff like this, because the company had kind of dabbled in it, but they hadn't fully like invested too much on that or like on pay-per-click ads and stuff because the CEO was still very much into traditional marketing strategies like magazines and billboards and stuff like that. And I think they were very successful. So I don't think that they were having issues, but I did notice that the marketing team was trying to sort of like revamp this and they were constantly fighting for just more of that. I'm curious. I think what was really interesting to me was that it was sort of a phenomena of the CEO kind of being an older man that did not necessarily understand how that part of marketing worked with social media and then having a very young marketing team that thought that was like the future. Have you had situations like this where, you have to sort of navigate things where, businesses are still having kind of stuck in their ways, not wanting to move. They're afraid to change things around. How do you handle stuff like that?
Yeah. Can I ask, what was the product or service of that company in your reference?
They were making strollers, like baby products. They were selling a lot of baby products. They were also distributor based. So every distributor would do the marketing locally. So I
Yeah.
think that really affected them.
Yeah.
Because it like every distributor and they had like the business also had multiple companies. It wasn't like they were a parent company. So it was also very big.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think that that someone could run the risk of oversimplifying or thinking that one solution works everywhere. So absolutely, we run into businesses that are stuck in their ways or they choose to go opposite than our recommendation. But we approach it with a ton of curiosity, recognizing that like even two direct competitors, like how they run their business, how they started, what their kind of secret sauce is unique. And there's one formula that does not work for everyone. And so I try to be really cautious with our team about saying, well, this worked here, so it's obviously going to work elsewhere, right? So like we had this huge growth in social, so it's important for everybody. And what I think is most important is you filter it through the resources available. Like every company is limited by time and money. And so then you have to say, okay, of the time and money available, what's actually the best use of this? For some companies, it may be social. And if we say we push for that and the owner or the leader of the project says no, like we've done our job as long as we educate why we think this is a good solution and the pros and cons. And then we release that because at the end of the day, like they're accountable to the decisions they make. And also I know that they know their business better than we do. Even from the outside, even if we've seen it work 100 times, they choose not to do it. There could be something internal. We don't have the full picture that makes sense for that. And at the end of the day, like we release it, like we're services-based businesses to serve people. So I think that's important, but I do think that a lot of people in marketing in particular get caught in a trap that like, this is new and this is important. So it's important for everybody. And so I don't know this business, but I'll just play the devil's advocate. Maybe social was the best thing they could have done in updating that and updating their brand, but maybe it wasn't. Like if they're a parent company and they're a distributor, probably easy to recognize that if that parent company gains a lot of traction and brand recognition, it will have no influence on the subsidiaries. So every dollar put there won't create an ROI. Or if they're a distributor, same thing. Like no distributors are like scrolling around on TikTok and Instagram, like looking for strollers to buy, right? That would make sense if they're B2C. There's moms looking around for, the latest stroller and there's great videos. So I think it's one of those things that people can get overconfident in simplified solutions. And on the same time, like people choose to do different things than we recommend quite a bit. I would say the place that shows up for us the most is probably design. I think marketing solutions, if we can provide the data behind it, our clients typically go with us because we're showing them concrete data and we have we have no golden handcuffs. All of our work was performance driven. So we have month-to-month contracts. We have no long-term contracts. So like we're proving value each month of the way. I think where I was going with design is, our designers have won awards globally and world-class branders. And typically they're going to design something forward facing that's going to last for the future. And that's going to stretch the clients. And sometimes people are like, that feels way too, that I don't love that. Right. So they'll go for the safer design. The challenge there, and we release that to them. The challenge there is like, it just dates faster and it's not going to be as long. It won't have as long legs as it will. Right. And if you think about like when Teslas first came out, it's a good example. Like most people thought they were really ugly. And then about like 8 years ago, people were like, man, these cars look really amazing. And now they're just normal, right? So it was ahead of the curve.
Yeah, no. And actually, to kind of defend that company, like I was very new and I also didn't really understand. So I had no idea if social was the best. I should have, like, I probably would have had to do more market research to realize that. I think I just noticed this dichotomy of like, like a certain group of people kind of thinking that this was the solution and then another group thinking no. But yeah, like you said, I think sort of being able to analyze what the situation is for every business is very different. I think, especially with social media, I think we've sort of in marketing thought that that's the solution to everything because of like viral businesses that have become very popular, like have had brands become very popular on social media. But I think sometimes we fail to realize that that model doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah. I think the best thing to do as well is like just this should be every business decision, but the true ROI, right? What was the cost to create that? What was the value it generated?
Yeah. Because I think like we've seen sort of like Duolingo types that are just so big on social media. But I think like with a business like Duolingo, it's a customer based thing with like, it's B2C. You're facing normal people who are scrolling on social media and they're going to engage with memes and things like that. But that's not necessarily every single business's sort of core audience, right?
Sure. Yeah, or where that those people may be on social, but they're not um, going to convert on certain products and services.
Yeah.
You may
I-
going to choose your doctor based off social, and you're probably not going to choose your your next marketing agency off of social.
Yeah. I actually think that it's, because if you're going to like kind of do different types of research that are not going to be through social, I think it's really interesting that I've seen a lot of sort of healthcare people do, like, I've seen them be very big on like Instagram ads and things like that. And I always feel like a little bit weird about it because I think it, at least for me, it has the opposite effect of like, if a dentist is very big on social media, I don't trust him that much.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they're putting so much time into the flashy stuff, but I want to see like people I trust more the recommendation for my friend on the street who's like, my longtime friend who's told me like, oh, I go to this dentist all the time, like totally go with them. They're going to do great. They're going to remove all your cavities. And like that type of like word of mouth and referral marketing works a lot more in a business like that than like a very great Instagram page.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as an agency, starting with what your customers' current conversion paths are is there's a lot of hidden gold in there. And how do you leverage that versus just trying to come up with a solution that you're repeating for companies over and over?
Yeah, for sure. Kenn, I think that's a great note to end this podcast on. It's been so great to have you here today. But before we finish, I do want to give you the space to plug anything, promote anything, if anything that we spoke about today resonated with our viewers or listeners and they would like to work with you. Space is yours.
Great. Yeah, I don't want to take a lot of the time, but I think, like I said, neversettle.it is where you can find us. And we love helping businesses build a bigger story. And we do that through consulting, marketing, technology, web development, e-commerce, and design.
Awesome. I will be adding the links to your website and all of the things needed on the description of this video. So guys, click on the description, go subscribe to us, follow us, everything. And thank you so much for being here today, Kenn. It was great having you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest. And to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.